Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. It's a first for me, a sibling suing another sibling in small claims court over the care of their elderly mother, with the elderly mother present. The only fun part about this case is when the brother belches, and obviously my burps haven't beat. And a warning, the judge goes on the record with who he rules in favor of, but goes off mic and camera with the details. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Okay. Can you hear me okay, sir?
I can now.
All right. And is Leona Hutton with you as well there, sir?
Yes, sir. She's on my right.
Okay. All right. We are on the record in Leona Hutton and Gerald Byerly versus Stacy DeNicola. The case number is Butler County 24 SC 038. Ms. Hutton and Mr. Byerly appear in person and pro se, as does Ms. DeNicola. Mr. Byerly, as the proponent of this motion, do you wish to testify or do you wish to call any witnesses?
I have her her current caretaker with me and my mother. I don't know that they're required to testify, but they're here if they do.
Well, it's your case. How would you like to proceed? If you have witnesses, or if you want to testify yourself, I'll swear those witnesses in. But if you don't have any other witnesses and are just wanting to submit this matter to the court on the petition itself, I'm happy to do that as well.
I guess you could swear us in.
Okay.
Lenora and Tracy and I.
Okay. If y'all would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
All right. So go ahead, whomever you'd like to have testify first.
Mother, did you want to testify first?
Huh?
Do you want to have something to say?
Well, you, I don't think so.
I would like to testify that on or about in late August, Mom requested that her current caretaker, Tracy Hutton, or Tracy wrote, take her for her to be under her care as by her rights in the Elderly Care Act. And it was denied. And we was soon not allowed to talk to her, wasn't allowed to visit. There was a hearsay conversation that they was to call the cops, so I showed up on the property. And
So I'm just to make sure I understand, you were present when this conversation you speak of between Miss Rhodes and your mother took place?
no, the conversation was between me and my mother, and I immediately notified the defendant, Stacy Hutton, or Dina, and she told me she didn't want her sister getting a hold of her. And then things all went south after that. There was a lot of disagreement, and we've been getting along. Everything was running just fine. And after Lenora started gaining her faculty, she wanted her other daughter to take care of her, and requested it. And everything went south after that. I mean, we all get along, or used to, but now it's not so good.
Okay. Did you have anything else, sir?
Well, when you get involved in these kind of things, there's so much goes on, but he said, she said, but basically I'm just here to see that my mom's rights are honored.
Okay. Ms. DeNicola, do you have any questions for Mr. Byerly?
Um, I basically want to know what took place at the end of August that you feel like you were not allowed to visit or speak to Mom.
Well, as for the last 15 or more years, I've always paid her phone bill. I know when I'm being blocked. And also, as I stated earlier, it was relayed to me from Tracy wrote that if I showed up on the property, they was supposed to call the cops. So my mother is she had a stroke. and we didn't want a lot of fighting going on. So I just stayed clear until I hadn't really talked to my mother until Tracy Road actually took custody of her.
Okay. If there's no other questions, Ms. DeNicola, I'll ask you, Mr. Byler, is any other evidence for the plaintiff?
Well, the care agreement, I haven't seen it signed. At that point, we was in total agreement on the care agreement, but we also was in total agreement that Lenora could change that at any time. And when she started snapping out of all this stroke, and she's has trouble communicating now, and that's when she decided to requested that Tracy Road be under her care.
Okay.
But the care agreement does state on the care agreement, the one that I seen before it was signed, specifically states she has the right to change that at any time.
Where does it say that?
Well, haven't seen it after it was signed. Me and my wife helped her prepare it. Like I say, at that time, we was all in complete agreement. But once Mom or Lenora requested that it be changed, everything went south as far as us getting along and even having a civil conversation about it.
Okay. All right.
May I respond to that, please?
You can, I'll give you a chance
Okay.
to give your testimony here in a minute. I just want to make sure that
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Byerly has had a chance, or if there's any other thing from the plaintiff before I give you a chance to tell your side.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Byerly?
No. I mean, there's in a family dispute like this, there's always so many things to say, but I'm basically just here to help my mom sort through all this stuff.
Okay.
I mean, there's things I could add, but I don't know if they'd be constructive or not.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to hear them, I can tell you some more. But
well, I want you to feel comfortable presenting the case that you want to present. So if there's something more that you think
there is
relevant.
one item I would like to present. I mean, it was probably 3 weeks after she got out of rehab that she started saying she wanted Tracy Road to take care of her. And I find it very, very irregular that once all my mother's accounts were depleted, miraculously, she is now was allowed to go to Tracy's care.
Okay.
That's just way irregular to me. I don't even understand it.
All right. If there's nothing further, then I'll ask you, Ms. DeNicola, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give and the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right. Go ahead and tell me your side of the story.
I want to date back to where he said August. And so this whole dispute with Gerald started when he and his wife agreed to care for my mother for a period of 2 weeks while we went to visit my father-in-law, who was very ill and had dementia, advanced case dementia. We had put that trip off for a very long time because of my mom's stroke. And then within 2 weeks prior to us leaving, he had his wife call, and he was on the line and proceeded to tell me that Jaquita had told me, his wife, that if she honored the 2 weeks, that he was going to divorce her. And she was crying. And she said, if you hang up this phone and you never talk to us again, I completely understand. And I chose to hang up the phone. And as far as him saying I blocked him, no, I didn't. Mom had a Google where she could say, hey, Google, call anybody at any time she wanted to. And they could call anytime they wanted to. And they didn't. They could have come. They were told personally from my husband alone that they could come visit anytime that they wanted to. As far as call the sheriff, that was if he came and threatened to physically harm my other brother that was caring for my mom at the time that we were gone. That was it. We never said nobody was allowed to visit Mom. That's a total lie. And we wouldn't do that anyway.
Anything else that you'd like to add with respect to the petition before this court?
And the only thing is depleting her accounts. I have proof of what her accounts were and how much there was in there when she went to live with my sister. And I have proof of that. I did not deplete her accounts. She wasn't like she was a millionaire or anything like that. And there was one more thing, but I don't remember what it was. But
Right. Mr. Byerly, do you have any questions, or do you, Ms. Hutton, have any questions for Ms. Denicola?
Well, this is what happened was when I told Stacy DeNicola that mom requested her for her other daughter to care for her, she told me she did not want, quote, she did not want her to get a hold of her. Shortly after that, I had addressed Stacy DeNicola personally, and I said I could do 1 week. I would do 1 week. I was then told that nobody else in the family could do it. Tracy DeNicola offered to do 2 weeks. Glenn and Betty could have did a week. Donald and her other son and his wife did it. Then we all sat down at the table and we started talking, and we was very friendly at that point. My wife, without consulting me, said that she would do the 2 weeks. I immediately said, if I'm going to do that, quote, you're going to have to pay me, because I'm going to have to hire somebody to take care of some business would have to take care of. September is a very, very busy time for me. There was no way I could do 2 weeks. My wife said in front of all four of us that she would do it. She did not consult me. And yes, me and my wife had a big knockdown about it because she was out of line. She did not consult me, and it was my mother. And which Stacy said is pretty much true about how that conversation went. And as far as me not being able to contact my mother, I did not feel comfortable to go there. I was told I was not allowed to stay at their property anymore. As I drive quite a ways to get there, that's generally the arrangements we always had. I'll go stay the night. And as far as them calling the cops, if I showed up, I got the information from Tracy Road, and she got it directly from the 2 individuals that were caretakers. I also objected. They're an elderly couple that are now in assisted living. My brother has heart problems. His wife has severe back issues. I was very concerned about them taking care of her, especially when there was at least 4 other people in the family that was willing to watch him for 2 weeks. And I was willing to watch him for 1 week. I told her before we even started that conversation, I could only do 1 week. She connived it and went around me and got my wife, which is a very fine, upstanding woman, and she would do anything possible. But she failed to consult me on the matter.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing further from you, Mr. Byerly, and Ms. Denicola, is there anything further from you?
I have a little bit of my sister that now cares for her. I don't know if it's pertinent or not, but she can tell you what she charges, how much money was in the account, which was very little. Mom had about $10,000 in her account, and Stacy Denicola told me that right when she was reading her will, which is another problem I have, but that's not really pertinent. But Tracy DeNicola, they was in a really financial bind when they first got mom back, because she didn't have any money. Stacy had tried to write a check for $2,500 to capture her last Social Security check. Now, what was mama supposed to live on for the next 30 days if she didn't have any money? When I looked at the records, I seen $300 left in the checking account. Tracy straightened me out and said there was $500. So when she got her $1,500 Social Security check, Stacy had wrote a check against that while she was in Tracy's care, right? And excuse me. I'm 67 years old. Like sometimes I get kind of goofy, but what was she supposed to live on? I mean, they was asking me for money to help her get by, and I said I will do anything, but right now I've got 17 grandchildren and I've got plenty of problems of my own. I couldn't financially help them. But Tracy is right here. She can verify that she was told from the caregivers that Stacy had watching them that if I showed up on the property, I was to be arrested, or they was to call the cops. And I would like you to hear what they charge. I mean, I was against the $3,000 a month. I mean, we're sitting there, we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, I'm in the mindset to always prepare for the worst. But we knew that mom could change it at any time, but she was not allowed to. And the state averages are $2,000 to $3,000. And based on my mom's income, it should have been closer to $1,700 a month. I mean, after 6 months, she didn't have basically enough money to go to the next month. I mean, this is not right. This is sad. But I would like to hear Tracy speak to the amount they charge her a month, which is fair. And they've dug in their pockets pretty hard on this deal. So I don't know if you want to hear that or not.
If it's your case, if you, Ms. Rote, if you want to testify, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know really how much I can give, because like I said, I was left out of all these decisions on my mother. If I did ask about any of, I would say it was a need to know. If I needed to know, or they think I needed to know, that's when I'd find out things. But on the Care Agreement Act that I signed, and it does say that she can change at any time within a proper amount of time. We came up with $2,000 a month, but she only has in her account enough for $1,000 a month, and that's what she's getting charged. And that's it. And as her bank account, it was $500 or $600 left over. I'd have to go grab the paperwork. And my mom was the one that got that information for me, because the bank would not talk to me. Everything was under my sister's. She was power of attorney, all that good stuff. And when I took her to the bank to pull out $20, is all I wanted to do it for Daughters of Isabella, which is her church group. She started talking to the ladies because they know her. And she asked about her savings account first, and they told her she didn't have one, and she immediately was upset. They thought I was Stacy, and they would not talk to me or my husband. I made my husband come in with me, and I said, "We got a problem." I said, the bank won't let me talk for mom, and they talked with mom, and it ended up being a whole big old showdown at the thing. But once the ladies figured out, mom and them, not us, I had nothing to do with it. It was the bank, and my mother got herself a new account, and they worked with her. But it was that simple. But they explained to her, I wasn't in there for all of it, but they explained to her why it happened, and my mom was not happy. But that's it. That's all I can tell you. Otherwise, any of this other stuff they're talking about, mom wanted to live with me. Stacy said she didn't want me to take care of her. I don't know. I was not in any of those conversations. Matter of fact, I wasn't in a lot of her decisions, and that everybody says it was a family decision, but me and I know another brother did not get into those conversations whatsoever. So, like I said, this is more Paco. Him and Stacy, Gerald. Him and Stacy were the ones that started everything once my mom left Great Bend after her stroke. And I was all for her going to Wichita because they got better care than Great Bend. I'll be honest on that. But once she got to Wichita, it was, I really didn't get a lot of information. So I can't help any other way.
I would like to add a couple more comments.
Just a second. I'll give you that chance, Mr. Byerly, but Ms. DeNicola, do you have any questions for Ms. Rote?
I feel that I had a family message board, and I did my best to try to update and keep people informed at all times.
Okay. All right.
And so if there was a question you had, you ask. It's not a problem to ask. And as far as decisions being made, it wasn't just me, and it wasn't just Gerald. We had 3 other brothers and other family members sitting there.
Okay. All right, Mr. Byerly, you said you had something of a closing comment.
Yes, sir. Your Honor. When mother finally got to her accounts and seen them, I mean, the law is pretty clear that she's supposed to keep my mother informed of these things. She had no idea. She was totally devastated to see the amount of money she had left in her accounts.
Okay. If you're finished, sir, Ms. DeNicola, any closing statement?
Well, I just want to, I have a beginning balance here when she came in. It's like September, I think it says. I don't have my glasses on. And then it has a receipt of an ending balance on the 17th of February, 2023. That was in her account when she left my home. And so I have that, if you would like to see that at any time. But I have an ending statement, and I wrote up an ending statement. And I just want everybody to know, I took my mom in for a few reasons. One was no one else in this family was able to care for her at the time, and I didn't want to see her go to a nursing home, which was her other choice. I wanted to show her how much I really loved her and caring for her until she passed. And I didn't remodel my home and her living quarters, provide 24-hour care for the money. But everyone involved thought it was appropriate that I receive compensation. I can't see anyone can justify asking for a refund for legally paid money under our care agreement. And additionally, under the care agreement, my mother would still owe me $6,000 for the care that I never received payment for. I haven't requested this payment as of yet. However, if my siblings continue with these fraudulent attacks, I may be forced to consider doing so.
All right. If there's nothing further from
I
anyone,
guess I have some more to say.
well, I don't know if we need to go back and forth. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point,
that's my point. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I just feel that, under the law of 2007, the Elderly Care Act, it's very clear the responsibilities to keep all the family included. But Tracy and I were kept clear off any conversations after, I believe it was September 17th. So Tracy was able and available and ready to take care of Mom from the onset. We just thought, until we knew if she was even going to survive, that we had a great plan in place. There was no reason to continue it after she decided she wanted Tracy to take care of her. No reason at all, other than we was see and we was cut. I mean, I was kicked off the webpage she brought up. I was kicked off for that because they thought I was causing problems. I was just merely standing up for my mother's rights. That's my position today, and it always will be.
if there's nothing further, I'll look at the document you brought, Ms. DeNicola, with the bank information, and I'll go off camera and off mic for a few minutes, look at the file, and I'll come back shortly. Thank you.
Sir. Agreed.
All right, I'm ready to go back on the record in the Leona Hutton and Gerald Byerly versus Stacy DeNicola matter. I have had a chance to review the file in light of the statements of the parties, and I have said this previously and probably even earlier today. One of my biggest takeaways from this trial is just the sadness I feel that a previously close family is somehow at loggerheads. And I esteem, frankly, the three kids whom I have gotten to hear testify over the course of this case. And it seems that Ms. Hutton is indeed a blessed and lucky person to have so many people who care about her so much. I think that one of the most important statements I heard today was Mr. Byerly's assertion that it's something of a he said, she said debacle when you get into these family matters, because people remember or misremember snippets of conversation, and in the telling and retelling of those conversations, things get added or taken away, and it really does become a bit of a jumble. I do feel, again, pretty heartsick that if I'm understanding this evidence correctly, we're a year and a half and more on since Miss Hutton has been indeed living with Miss Rote, and it seems, again, somewhat tragic that this matter still is so front burner, so as to be back in court before me today. In viewing the document, and I recognize that Miss Rote was talking about a newer and perhaps different document, but I did not see in the caregiver agreement that had been provided by Ms. DeNicola, and it is paginated, and it appears that all of the pages in the agreement, 5 pages all told, are present and accounted for, but it doesn't have a clear conclusion to the agreement. There's certainly, at least not that I'm seeing, and I'd asked if anybody could point me in that direction, but I'm not seeing a language apparently as exists in Miss Rote agreement. The completion date, quote unquote, of the agreement Ms. DeNicola was under said the completion date shall be used to refer to the date when the caregiver will complete or cease the provision of caregiving services to the client. The completion date will be 99 years from the start date. Not sure I understand all of that, but it would seem that Ms. DeNicola, with 5 of 7 siblings concurring, and with not only a power of attorney document, which I believe was signed a day or two before the caregiver agreement, but the caregiver agreement was apparently something that everybody thought was right, including the $3,000 per month fee. And as Mr. Byerly had indicated, if he had taken responsibility of his mother even for a week, he would needed to have been compensated for that, because it costs money to have all of the things necessary to care for a person who's recuperating from a serious stay in the hospital. And the agreement that Ms. DeNicola went into called for 24/7 care. And it seems that, the $3,000 per month would have to have covered all of the things necessary for that care, including apparently some modifications to her home to make it easier for Miss Hutton to reside there. I think the primary question here today, and there's, again, deferring to Mr. Byerly, a fair amount of he said, she said, and a lot of passionate, I think well-placed passionate feelings of care for Miss Hutton's well-being, and also a lot of disappointment, frustration, anger, certain emotions that kind of go along where passions are running high sometimes. And I think that in Mr. Byerly's way of looking at things, there is an acknowledgement that it does cost a meaningful sum to maintain a person who's rehabilitating and needs help. And I think that the agreement, such as it is, I know we're talking about the difference between, according to Ms. Rote, $3,000 and $2,000 a month. It's certainly a difference, and I guess you could say it's 50% more, or you could also say, in a world with so many costs associated with anything having to do with caring for somebody, it's not a huge difference. And at the end of the day, I think we're talking about Miss DeNicola having been compensated only for times when she was, in fact, providing the services she had agreed to provide. And in point of fact, perhaps a couple of months, $6,000 behind, based on the number of months that she cared for her mom against the payments she received for that care. And I do think that there are a lot of moving parts, and I don't think people are unreasonable to be concerned and caring about them. But apparently, even the agreement that Ms. Rote is currently operating under, one which was drafted with the benefit of the pluses and minuses of this agreement that had been entered into between Ms. DeNicola and her mother, there is contemplated some sort of a time period. I mean, if a person wants to be cared for by someone different, that time frame wasn't specified, but it does acknowledge that things can't reasonably turn on a dime if you have certain things set up to care for someone. it's not necessarily like passing the baton in a relay or something like that. It takes a little more effort than that. And at the end of the day, I think that Ms. DeNicola provided what she said she was going to provide. I think that it's great that Mr. Byerly was acknowledging that his mom's improvement was so significant under Miss DeNicola's care that she began to be, in his view, in a position to knowingly make some requests, which might not have been anticipated immediately upon her release. But I think Miss DeNicola was compensated for services that were rendered. I don't think there's anything this court can do to assuage any of the difficult feelings that have come up over this long course of events. But my prayer for all of you is that you can give yourselves a pat on the back for having so lovingly cared for Miss Hutton. And I hope that in the fullness of time, maybe there could be an acknowledgement that, again, in the he said, he shed milieu, she said milieu in which we're operating, that, you know, there's an opportunity or possibility of misunderstanding that might not go towards any sort of evil in another person's heart. And with that, I'm finding for the defendant, and I'm going to go off camera and off mic here shortly. And I am